Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt like you didn't belong? Not because of what you did, but because of how you looked? What if the person they mocked for being just the janitor turned out to be the one signing their paychecks? In this story, humiliation has a price, and justice walks in wearing a mop bucket. Stick around, because when the truth comes out, it's going to hit hard. And hey, if you believe that respect should never be based on status or skin color, hit that subscribe button and let us know where you're watching from. It was a crisp, early morning at Lindenwood Global, a towering real estate conglomerate based in downtown Chicago. The streets buzzed with morning energy. Executives in tailored suits hurried through glass doors, armed with briefcases and $9 lattes, while valets parked sleek, imported sedans under the watchful eye of security cameras. But amidst the corporate blur, a lone motorcycle buzzed up to the curb. It wasn't flashy, just a well-worn black bike with a few scratches and a tired engine. Off stepped Malik Rivers, dressed in a gray hoodie, faded jeans, and a backpack slung lazily over one shoulder. He didn't look like much. In fact, to the people inside that skyscraper, he looked like nothing at all. What none of them knew was that Malik wasn't some random job hopper or maintenance man. He was the firstborn son of Leonard Rivers, founder and CEO of Lindenwood Global. And today, Malik wasn't there to flex power or claim the empire. He was there to see the truth from ground level. As a nobody, Malik had spent years overseas, studying, traveling, learning. His late mother, a brilliant African-American attorney, had instilled in him a sense of pride and purpose. But rumors had reached him, stories of systemic bias inside his father's empire. Whispers that people of color were kept out of leadership, overlooked for promotions, and treated like second-class citizens. It was time to see for himself. As he stepped inside, heads turned, but not in admiration. Two receptionists behind the marble desk locked eyes with each other, silently judging his presence. Their posture stiffened. Phones were lowered. Conversations paused. Then came Trevor Blake, senior operations manager. White, square-jawed, smug in a navy blazer and brown leather shoes. He spotted Malik and didn't hide the distaste that curled on his lips. With slow steps, Trevor walked over, planted himself in front of Malik, and let out a condescending chuckle. "Hey, buddy, deliveries go around back." Malik raised an eyebrow, letting the insult hang in the air. He gave a slow smile. "Actually, I'm here looking for a job," he said, adjusting the strap on his backpack. Trevor scanned him from head to toe, like inspecting dirt on the floor. "A job," he snorted. The receptionist smirked. One of them tapped into her system and fake-scanned for availability. "There's an opening," she said sweetly. "Janitorial staff." Trevor grinned wide, clearly amused. "Perfect," he sneered. "You wanted an opportunity, right?" Malik's eyes didn't flinch. "I'll take it." And just like that, the son of a billionaire was handed a mop. They thought it was a joke. But what they had really done was let the future CEO walk into the heart of their toxic empire, completely unseen. The badge clipped to his hoodie now read Custodial, Temporary Hire. His shift started at 7 a.m. sharp, and by 7:15, Malik Rivers was pushing a mop cart across the gleaming marble floor of Lindenwood Global's executive wing. The chandelier lights sparkled above him, reflecting off spotless glass and polished tile, yet no one looked down. No one saw him, except her. Janine Holbrook, the janitorial supervisor, was tall, stern-faced, and proud of the tiny sliver of power her role gave her. With tightly tied-back blonde hair and a clipboard that never left her grip, Janine walked like she owned the place, or at least the people who cleaned it. And from the moment she laid eyes on Malik, she decided he didn't belong. "What do you think you're doing?" Her voice rang out like a gavel across the hallway. Malik looked up, mop in hand. "Just mopping," he said, not a hint of sarcasm. Janine narrowed her eyes. "Don't get smart with me. I don't like your kind thinking you can act like you belong here." "You're kind." The words weren't even coded. She said it right to his face, and a few employees walking by turned to glance, but no one said a word. Just quick footsteps and lowered eyes. Malik smiled faintly, but his silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. He wasn't here to confront, not yet. He was here to watch, to listen, to feel the undercurrent of disrespect that pulsed beneath the company's glossy exterior. And it didn't stop with Janine. Trevor Blake, the smug manager who had first dismissed him, seemed to enjoy making Malik's life a slow, calculated misery. He'd toss empty coffee cups on the ground after Malik had finished cleaning a hallway. He'd spill his drink in the elevator and bark, "Better hop to it, boy," with that same smirk he always wore when he knew others were watching. And people were watching. Some employees laughed along quietly. Others just kept their heads down, pretending not to notice. But there were a few, very few, who began to wonder. Malik didn't carry himself like the other janitors. His posture was straight, movements measured. He listened more than he spoke. And the way he looked at people? It wasn't with fear or submission. It was like he was studying them. Still, the mistreatment kept escalating. Janine would follow him through the halls, nitpicking every surface he cleaned. "This glass is streaky. You missed a corner. Too slow. We don't pay by the hour." They didn't know the truth. Not yet. To them, he was invisible, replaceable, a nameless man in a hoodie with a mop. But Malik remembered every single face, every laugh, every insult. And what they didn't know was that the janitor they tried to break was about to break them. The executive conference room at Lindenwood Global looked like a scene from a luxury magazine. Mahogany table, crystal water pitchers, chrome-finished light fixtures. Malik had just finished polishing the long table until it gleamed under the fluorescent lights. He stepped back, inspecting his work, wiping one last invisible spot with a clean microfiber cloth. That's when he heard the familiar stiletto clicks on the marble floor. Janine Holbrook marched in like a storm front, her clipboard pressed tightly to her chest, eyes already loaded with contempt. "What is this?" she snapped. Malik looked at the table, puzzled. "The executive boardroom," he said calmly. Janine's lip curled. "This is filthy. Are you blind?" He blinked, turning his gaze toward the table again. It was spotless. "I just cleaned it." She didn't even hesitate. Without warning, Janine picked up a full paper cup of steaming coffee from the side table, walked over, and hurled it across the conference table. The dark liquid splattered everywhere, over the wood, across the glass center tray, dripping onto the freshly scrubbed floor. Gasps echoed from the hallway. Janine folded her arms and stared at Malik with narrowed eyes. "Now clean it again." There it was. The moment. Malik stood still, the smell of the coffee rising around him, his reflection blurred in the spilled mess. Behind him, several employees had stopped mid-stride, their faces painted with disbelief. Even the ones who had chuckled before now looked shocked. No one spoke. No one moved. Malik slowly took a breath in and smiled. Not because he was okay, but because finally, she'd gone too far. This was no longer simple bias. No longer whispers behind closed doors or coded language. This was humiliation in broad daylight. And it was about to blow up in ways Janine couldn't even imagine. He bent down without a word and began cleaning, his hands steady, his face unreadable. But inside, the wheels were already turning. Janine thought she was breaking him. She had no idea she was giving him everything he needed. At the same time, down at the reception desk, a sharp ring pierced the office hum. One of the receptionists answered, her voice chipper, until it wasn't. Her face paled. "Mr. Rivers?" she whispered into the phone. "Yes, sir, understood," right away. She stood up, so quickly her chair rolled back into the wall. The whisper spread like wildfire. Leonard Rivers, the billionaire founder, owner, and undisputed head of Lindenwood Global, was on his way, and nobody saw what was coming. In the heart of the glass tower, Malik finished wiping the last smear of coffee. Around him, people still stared, unsure whether to move or speak. But he already knew. The show had just begun, and the ones who had laughed, they were about to choke on the punchline. The entire energy of Lindenwood Global's 34th floor shifted the moment the news broke. Leonard Rivers, the founder, the billionaire, the man whose name was engraved on the marble plaque in the lobby, was on his way upstairs. You could almost hear neckties tightening and blouses being smoothed. Employees rushed to close unnecessary tabs, grab clipboards, and rehearse fake smiles. Conversations turned into whispers. Anxiety buzzed louder than the office printers. Trevor Blake, senior manager of operations, adjusted his cuffs and checked his reflection in a nearby glass panel. This was it. His moment. In his mind, he was already shaking Leonard Rivers's hand, dropping numbers about quarterly growth, and casually mentioning his leadership over the maintenance team. Maybe, just maybe, today was promotion day. As for Janine Holbrook, she was already fantasizing about a transfer to corporate headquarters, an upgrade from yelling at janitors to managing whole cleaning departments. She fluffed her hair, straightened her spine, and marched toward the main floor, eager to be seen. Meanwhile, Malik, still in his janitor uniform, still gripping a damp rag, he quietly stepped back into the shadows, watching the scene unfold like a play he already knew the ending to. The elevator dinged. Silence felt like a dropped pin. When the doors opened, there he was, Leonard Rivers, tall, imposing, dressed in a tailored gray suit with a black silk tie. His silver hair was slicked back with precision, and his sharp eyes scanned the room with practiced calm. Behind him, 2 assistants and a company VP flanked his sides like a security detail. His shoes tapped softly on the marble floor as he walked with purpose toward the center of the atrium. Every employee stood a little taller. Some faked confidence. Some whispered to each other. Trevor stepped forward, ready to impress. Leonard stopped. He turned to face the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice rich and steady, "today is a very special day for Lindenwood Global." More silence. Eyes widened. Some employees tilted forward slightly, like listeners at a magic show. "For years, I've built this company to stand for excellence, legacy, and most importantly," he paused, letting his gaze sweep across the room, "integrity." That one word shifted the air. A few people shifted uncomfortably, especially Janine. Malik noticed it all. Leonard continued, "And today, I am proud to announce that my firstborn son is here in this building." Gasps. Confused glances. Whispered speculation. "Firstborn son? I thought he had a younger kid from his second wife," someone murmured. Trevor's mind raced. He hadn't seen anyone new in a suit today. Maybe it was that Harvard intern from finance? Or the tall guy from strategy? But then Leonard smiled again and dropped the hammer. "My son is already here." He turned slightly. "Malik, come forward." Tom stopped. All heads turned. Trevor froze. Janine's face drained of color. And there, from the edge of the crowd, still in his janitor's uniform, stepped Malik Rivers, the man they mocked, ignored, and humiliated. The real boss had arrived. You could hear a paperclip hit the floor. The office froze, frozen stares, frozen hearts, frozen minds trying to make sense of what they just witnessed. Malik Rivers, the janitor, the man they ridiculed for his hoodie and mop, stepped forward with quiet authority. Each footstep echoed like a gavel across a courtroom. Trevor Blake's jaw unhinged slightly, his smug smirk nowhere to be found. Janine Hallbrook stood pale and stiff, gripping her clipboard as if it could somehow shield her from what was coming. Malik stopped in the middle of the room, the sea of employees parting around him. He turned to face them all. His voice, clear, controlled, and impossible to ignore, cut through the silence. "I assume some of you have questions." Whispers rippled like aftershocks. A young intern covered her mouth. A few people looked down at their shoes, trying to disappear into the tile. Trevor looked like he'd been slapped with a lawsuit. Malik's eyes flicked toward his father. Leonard Rivers gave him a single nod of approval, hands clasped behind his back, calm and resolute. Malik turned back to the crowd. "My name is Malik Rivers," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'm the firstborn son of Leonard Rivers. And as of today, I am your new CEO." Gasps. One person dropped a folder. Another let out a shaky exhale. The ripple of shock had now turned into a wave of reality. Trevor's knees nearly gave out. Janine took a half step back. "I have worked in this building for the past several days," Malik continued. "Not as an executive. Not as a guest. As a janitor." The honesty was brutal. Raw. People exchanged wide-eyed glances. Malik kept going. "I did this because I wanted to see how my company, our company, treats people when they think no one is watching. And now it was time for judgment." His eyes locked on Trevor Blake. "You assumed I was a nobody," Malik said, walking slowly toward him. "You mocked me, laughed at me, called me boy in front of your peers." Trevor's mouth opened, but Malik raised a hand. Silence returned. He turned next to Janine, who looked like she might faint. "And you?" Malik's tone lowered. "You humiliated me. You spilled coffee and demanded I clean it. You screamed in front of others as if I had no dignity." Janine tried to speak. "Sir, I didn't know," but Malik cut her off again. "I know you didn't know. That's the point." The weight of his words fell like bricks. "Would you have treated me differently if you knew who I was?" Neither Trevor nor Janine had an answer. Because everyone knew the truth. This wasn't about bad days or misunderstandings. It was about power, who they thought had it, and who they thought didn't. And now? The man they tried to crush was standing over them, holding their futures in his hands. And he wasn't done yet. The silence was deafening. Every employee at Lindenwood Global stood still, the full gravity of the moment settling like concrete on their shoulders. Even the hum of the HVAC seemed to disappear as Malik Rivers turned slowly, letting his gaze sweep over every face in the room. He saw their fear, their shame, their questions. He saw everything. Trevor Blake looked as if the floor might collapse beneath him. His hands were clenched at his sides, white-knuckled and sweating. Janine Hallbrook looked worse, her face pale, her shoulders trembling, eyes darting for an exit that didn't exist. Malik took one final step to the center of the room. And then, his voice, calm and composed, rose like a wave. Respect. One word, but it struck harder than any punishment. Respect, he repeated, isn't something you give only to people in expensive suits. It's not something you reserve for someone with a title or a private office or a parking space with their name on it. He looked directly at Janine now. It should never depend on someone's uniform or the color of their skin. Several employees lowered their eyes. Some shifted uncomfortably. A few swallowed hard, their throats dry with guilt. Malik continued. For the past few days, I've walked these halls. I've been ignored, belittled, laughed at. I've been called names, forced to clean up messes that were made just to humiliate me. He glanced toward the executive conference room, the very one where Janine had thrown coffee. But through it all, I've learned one thing. People tear others down because they're afraid. He paused. Let the truth hit them. Afraid of change. Afraid of equality. Afraid of a world where power isn't measured by privilege, but by integrity. It was no longer just a speech. It was a shift in the company's soul. Then Malik turned to his father, Leonard Rivers, who had watched silently all along. The elder CEO gave a slight nod, his eyes filled with something that looked like both pride and regret. Malik turned back to the room. Effective immediately, he said firmly, Lindenwood Global will implement new company-wide policies. Discrimination, at any level, will not be tolerated. Not whispered, not implied, not ignored. A few gasps rose, but nobody objected. There will be consequences, and there will be change. He stepped forward again. Trevor Blake, Malik said. Trevor looked up, almost pleading. You're fired. Effective immediately. Trevor's face collapsed. No rebuttal, just stunned silence. Janine Hallbrook, Malik continued. You are also terminated. Janine staggered. She looked to Leonard for help. None came. Then, something unexpected. Malik turned toward the crowd. But not everyone here stood silent, he said. One of you stood up for me, when you thought I was just a janitor. A young woman near the back, Sierra Monroe, a junior analyst, gasped. Malik smiled. You're being promoted. Starting today. Tears welled in Sierra's eyes. And just like that, the tides turned. This company, Malik said, will no longer be built on arrogance. It will be built on respect, on fairness, on lifting each other up. In that moment, the janitor was gone. What stood before them was a leader. And for the first time in a long time, Lindenwood Global was in the right hands. This story isn't just about a janitor who turned out to be a CEO. It's about what happens when you judge someone by their uniform instead of their character, when you confuse humility with insignificance. Malik Rivers didn't walk into Lindenwood Global to punish people. He walked in to reveal them, to shine a light on how quickly power can rot when it's built on ego, and how often we fail to see greatness simply because it doesn't look the way we expect. The truth is, respect is not a reward. It's a standard. It shouldn't take a title, a suit, or a last name to be treated with dignity. The takeaway: every time we choose to dismiss someone based on their appearance, we gamble with our own integrity. But when we choose respect first, we don't just change one interaction. We shift the entire culture around us. Here's what you can do right now. Leave a comment below if you've ever been underestimated or treated unfairly. Your voice matters, and someone out there needs to hear they're not alone. Hit that like button if you believe that respect should be unconditional, not situational. Subscribe to this channel to stand with a growing community that values justice, dignity, and accountability. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a single story that challenges injustice and inspires real change. Because silence doesn't fix broken systems, action does. And change starts the moment you speak up.